see. I said see you next week on February 27th. Here it is, 3.5 months later. March, April, May. Yep, 3.5 months later. I'm back. I am still learning Hindi. I've been learning it all along. I've been kind of spending a little bit of time on it, but honestly, March, April, and May were incredibly busy with work, and the pandemic has complicated things a lot at work. Here's hoping that things go back to in-person in the fall. Besides work, there were a number of projects that I was working on, and then a number of health issues in the family, so I think that I'm back for the summer. I think that things have calmed down a little bit, and I'm going to be working on putting out another Hindi video every week. It's important to have some accountability, and and these videos do that for me so that I sort of keep up with this project. This week I am highlighting another YouTuber, this time a woman who is traveling around Pondicherry, a place in India that I would actually really like to go to, a French influenced portion of India. The YouTuber's name is Radhika Nomlers. And she's lovely. I definitely wanted to highlight women who are traveling around India. Radhika seems to be a native Hindi speaker, so probably born in India. I don't know a lot about her, but I think she's probably born in India and is traveling around. And part of the reason I want to highlight women is, first of all, Indian women are just lovely, spunky, independent, quirky people, strong people, and I wanted to highlight that lovely side of India. And part of it too was, for example, Radhika seems to be traveling with some kind of a camera person, but oftentimes women do travel around India solo, which I think a lot of people find hard to believe, but it's actually true. Women do travel around India by themselves. India has a reputation for being unsafe for women. I don't necessarily find that to be true. I would say that's probably just as true in the United States as it is in India. Women always have to be careful, is the reality. But it really is just true everywhere. I'm sure there are some countries in the world where it's really not safe for women to travel on their own, but I haven't personally traveled to any of them yet. And it is probably the most asked question that I get is is it safe for women to travel in India at all, even as a part of my group of students when we go to India? Is it safe for a woman to go? You have to be careful, is all I can say. You have to be careful, no matter where you are. I lived in Chicago for 10 years. I grew up outside of a small town in the Midwest, and things happened to me in all the places. There's harassment everywhere. When I was living in Chicago, the main place where I was harassed the most was actually on the train, on the L, like the metro in Chicago. Now here's an interesting thing. In India, in Delhi, the capital of India, there is a tremendous metro, lots of trains crisscrossing and covering a great deal of the city. Very well done. I believe it's really new. I believe it's only about 10 or 15 years old and is well known for being clean and safe and everything. One of the things they do is that every single train has, like 8 cars or whatever. It's a regular metro. The front car is always dedicated to women only. This is something that other cities should take on. When I was living in Chicago, the worst things happened to me on the train. I would have loved to have a train devoted to women only, especially the front car where the engineer was right there, the driver was right there, and so if anything happened, you'd have help available immediately. I don't know why other cities haven't thought of this, but maybe Chicago, you should listen up. It's not that difficult to do. I don't feel like you just have the first car of every single train devoted only to women. It works. All right, so so I'll be highlighting some women in the coming weeks. Now, Radhika's videos are challenging for 2 reasons. For one, she switches back and forth readily between Hindi and English. This is not, these videos are not devoted to learning Hindi. These are devoted to traveling around India. And so she has no obligation to say everything in Hindi. But that does make it difficult for a person who's trying to learn Hindi to try to figure out, literally sometimes in the middle of a sentence, a word pops in there in English, or halfway through a sentence, it suddenly switches from Hindi to English. So that's difficult. And the other thing that's difficult is that there's a difficulty when I'm doing when I'm actually trying to figure out exactly what to say, exactly what a phrase is, remember that I'm trying to learn a sentence wholesale. I'm trying to learn the whole sentence at once. And so it's important for me to get the pronunciation of each word correct. And it is spoken very quickly. So of course I slow everything down to 50% or sometimes 25%. And the other thing is that the transcription is not always clear. So when I watch these sorts of videos, I will turn on closed captioning and it's in English, which is helpful. So then I have a translation. But the problem is I actually really need the transcription. I actually need the actual words that are spoken because my ear isn't attuned to the language enough to be able to pick out different words. So it's kind of a difficult problem to explain if you've never actually tried to do this. I use Google Translate and I will take that English phrase and I will put it in Google Translate and it will give me something back that's sort of similar to what was said but not exactly the same. Maybe the order of the words has been switched around, maybe some words have been cut off, and it becomes quite a challenge to try to figure that out. So I have not yet found a woman YouTuber who actually does transcription and translation, but if I find her, I will be doing all my videos with her probably. Since the conversation was very fast, I did not have the transcription. I was really only able to pluck out a few different phrases. So what's happening here is that Radhika is traveling in Pondicherry, and she is trying to go to this water tower, or this lighthouse, which is a tourist-y kind of a situation, and she finds out that it's closed because of COVID, and then she ends up at a restaurant. So I was only able to pluck out a few phrases that were true Hindi that I was actually able to transcribe and translate them. Bandura kya Jay nain saktare Sabayora ke apni veo kareun इस जगह का नाम सीगा रेस्टोरेंट ये पीछे रॉक बीच और अबे सनसेट कर रहा है इस समय. See you next week. I promise I already have my video picked out for next week.